What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven here with your afternoon snap, and today I'm going to talk about the updates coming to Snap Packs that makes them even better. And updates is maybe a little bit of a misnomer. It's the word that they used in the blog. What I'm talking about here is that some cards are going to drop from the seasonal Series 4 Snap Packs into just the plain old Series 4, and same thing from seasonal Series 5 down to these boring looking, they didn't even give me PNGs here with transparency because yeah, these are, nobody cares about these ones maybe, or maybe you do. There's potentially, depending on your collection, some things to get excited about either way. What I'm going to be talking about in this video are the individual cards dropping from seasonal snap packs into collector's snap packs, which means they will be cheaper to pick up. They have a slightly reduced cost and also potentially a bigger or smaller pool of cards to pick from. And that's also the really interesting part here. There might be people that want to pick up these cards before they rotate into collector's packs, though I think not necessarily this season in particular, but just as an idea, if there are a bunch of cards that you already own in Collector's Series 4 and Series 5 packs, these ones on the bottom over here, then you might want to pick up some of the cards that I'm about to talk about, though again, not necessarily for this season, but in general, as an idea, you might want to think about picking up cards at a higher rate while there is less possible things that you can open. On the flip side, how I think a lot of people might utilize this system is they are going to wait for cards to come down from these seasonal packs into the collector's packs. Then you can get them for 1,000 tokens cheaper potentially, and just increase the overall value of your collection by instead just choosing to ignore seasonal cards. So some people might be watching this video to basically hear about the new cards coming into Marvel Snap, though this is a little bit of a weird month because the cards that we're going to be talking about were opened up in Spotlight caches when people thought Spotlight caches were the only system that there was. So you possibly already have any of these cards that you specifically wanted anyways, but I want to talk about them. So without further ado, let's move on to our first card going down into Collector's Series 4. These aren't quite drops like we used to have, but they also kind of are like drops, I think, for a lot of players. And Uncle Ben is the first card we've got dropping. We'll also bring up, I pulled up the Spider-Man reference. Everybody knows what Spider-Man does. Maybe if you're watching this video like a year in the future or something, Spider-Man has changed. Spider-Man actually changed right before Uncle Ben came out. There was a thought that because Spider-Man was a 3/5 temporarily, they buffed it. This is definitely a buff for Spider-Man. Potentially a nerf for Uncle Ben, though. People were talking about using Killmonger to destroy your Uncle Ben, and then you get another 3-cost card out of that, and then you're playing that in Silver Surfer, and Uncle Ben could have been used in like a Killmonger Silver Surfer shell. Speaking of, Uncle Ben really only sees play alongside Killmonger. I have not seen anyone else really do anything else with it, and you gotta play it in a deck where you're also interested in having a Spider-Man. So the deck lists that this can go in are pretty slim, though it has seen some play in some Scream Killmonger lists when you want to play up against like a Clog deck. Killmonger can be good, or in like a Thanos metagame, Killmonger can be reasonable. We also see this alongside Lady Deathstrike as another way to potentially clean up some small stuff while also trying to destroy your own Uncle Ben. And I will give a brief shout out to one of my videos where I played Uncle Ben in a Galactus deck to really fun effect. Just search Uncle Ben Galactus on my YouTube channel. You can probably just search it on YouTube in general, but that was a really sweet deck. For the most part, Uncle Ben has not seen that much play, though, really outside of that Scream Killmonger deck that I said specifically. And I think that most people are probably not necessarily looking to play Uncle Ben. Gorgon is a card that saw a lot of play in the season when it came out. There was a time where people are messing around, and we're going to get to Agamoto in just a moment, but it messes with Agamoto, it messes with Thanos Stones. Nobody's playing it right now to beat up on these Thanos Stones, but it could see some use. I think the Gorgon is one of the better cards that we're going to look at today, and it also is obviously pretty good at RSM denial, making RSM cards cost one more. I'm not really seeing any RSM right now, which I think is part of the reason we are not seeing any Gorgon. It makes RSM go from a pretty cool thing to just something you don't want to be messing around with at all. So I think that Gorgon definitely does have some space as a tech card. The best time to use tech cards is when you are also messing with your opponent in a way that the tech card interacts with, or just having some other synergies. I'm thinking like using Enchantress in a Sauron deck, right? Like that's a classic example where the Enchantress is a proactive card and a reactive card against your opponent. The example for Gorgon, the only one that I can really think of currently is Master Mold to give your opponent sentries that are a little bit more expensive, and or sentinels rather that are a little bit more expensive. Other than that, Gorgon I don't think has any proactive uses, but it is pretty good in certain metagames that we could certainly see again, especially as cool new cards come into Marvel Snap. Like I'm thinking Infinity Ultron, which was definitely a miss. We'll talk about that one next month. That's not going to be in this video, but that does leave some room on the table for Gorgon to be good in the future, because as they print kind of cool special cards that create a bunch of cards, if we see more skills in the future, then Gorgon certainly has some more opportunity to be played. But I think the best of this first round of Series 4 cards dropping into Collector Series 4 has got to be Luffy. At the very least, Luffy is on the top of mind for me right now because it is seeing play in some Ajax Affliction lists. And I just featured it either yesterday or earlier today on the channel. Whatever my previous video was, it made the finals with a move Ajax sort of hybrid list that's going on right now as just a reasonable card that puts out pretty good power to cost ratio while also impacting your Ajax location, because the Affliction, the steel, is going to pump up your Ajax. So I do think that Luffy is possibly, just in like the current actual today when I'm recording this, is the best card in this video. So you might want to consider, and this I think is actually the best use case for thinking about this video. If you go into your collection right now and you see that your current Series 4, seasonal Series 4 snap packs have like 3-4 cards in them, including Luffy and some other things that you wouldn't mind picking up, and then you look at your collector Series 4 and it's a bunch of stuff that you really don't care for, that you just haven't picked up for a while because your Series 4 collection is like kind of bloated, or your lack of Series 4 collection is kind of bloated. If there's a bunch of Series 4 cards that you don't own and don't want to own, then you might actually consider spending a little bit of a premium and trying to roll for Luffy in seasonal Series 4 snap packs, if the other stuff in seasonal Series 4 snap packs right now are also things that you want to open for. It's hyper specific. For everyone else, Luffy is about to drop down, which could potentially give you a discount if you don't have that many other Series 4 collection cards to open up against it. Hopefully all of this makes sense. If not, why am I making this video? But I think it's interesting to just talk about some old cards in review and just kind of hear, okay, what hit the mark, what totally missed. Now we are moving on to Series 5 cards, and actually a Season Pass card. And I'd actually say this one's kind of a miss. There was definitely some people playing Agamoto during its season. And I should also load up here. This is going to be a pretty big image. I might have to make myself a little bit smaller here even, but here are all of the spells that Agamoto creates. So Agamoto's a 5/10. I'm blocking that up right now. The start of the game, you shuffle these 4 cards into your deck, which gives you a lot of additional variance in your games, which can be fun and can be a reason to pick up a card just because it's going to give you more fun gameplay moments. But with this variance, I think that these cards in particular, some of them are powerful. You can win the game with, I'd say, 75% of these. Temporal manipulation is never going to necessarily win you the game, as much as it can almost like lose you the game. I mean, it's a 1/3. It's always at the very least a 1/3, which is a totally fine rate, realistically. And it can even be a 1/3 that sort of draws you a card because it draws you the Agamoto that it puts itself on. And I think that that's also kind of like a snap condition too, which is interesting and nice. There are, though, games where you just wind up drawing it and you draw Agamoto before you get to play the temporal manipulation, and those never feel as good, and that's where I'm just saying it adds a little bit more variance into it. Winds of Watum, though, is a 2/5. It gives -5 affliction to the card that it moves, and could potentially move your opponent's cards in a way that are going to lock them out of the 2nd or 3rd location, which can be just game winning, to just win you a location for 2 energy. I've also seen some people play Agamoto in Scream decks because specifically of Winds of Watum. I think that's a little bit of a stretch for the most part. Bolts of Balthak was originally, I think, what people thought was going to be the most powerful card, and it can be, but also if you really look at it, you're spending 3 energy and then you're getting 4 energy. So you're getting +1 energy. Sometimes you're even throwing off your curve to do that. It can be very powerful if you play bolts on turn 5 to then have 10 energy on the final turn. There's a lot of things that you can do with 10 energy on the final turn, tossing priority, etc. But it is actually awkward to really make use of your 5th turn with that, because then you only have 2 other energy, and oftentimes it winds up being that like you're casting bolts for 5 some of the time because you're spending your entire turn 5 to just cast bolts, or you could spend your entire turn 5 to play Agamoto, and there's just some really awkward tension with that. Images of Icon can win you the game. Transform your other cards here into copies of the highest power card, or at least it can win you a location. But it's also a big commitment to win that one location. All of these cards are fine. I think that ultimately I found that Agamoto is a little more high variance for competitive cards and competitive Marvel Snap, and is mostly been cut recently in any list that I've seen. But there was a time where people were just calling it the season pass deck, and you played Agamoto and Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson Shield is a nice card to images away, so that's kind of cool. And then you just play Galacta. Galacta is a great card to images either way, and you play Iron Patriot, which like you try to like battle hard for the Iron Patriot location early, and then you images the location later and continue to win in that location. So there's definitely some cool stuff that that deck was doing. I think that ultimately, I mean, it hasn't seen any play really over the past month with this Captain Carter season. I have not really seen many people playing Agamoto. I think that it's still reasonable, but I think that ultimately people found that there was just too much variance compared to some of the other stuff that you could be doing. Can I make myself bigger here now? Oh, it's Z. There we go. So that'll make me bigger. And then let's take away these and let's continue on to Isan. And this, I think, is a rather important card to talk about as an Arishem enjoyer. End of turn, put a created card from your hand here, which is pretty cool text and a pretty fun card. Really only an RSM card, and this has been a consistent RSM card since it came out. If you want to play the best RSM deck, then you play Isan. I don't actually think it's necessary though. I think, from my perspective, Blob is still a totally fine card to play in the exact same slot, in the I want to spend 6 energy and win one location and then try to figure out how to win the other locations. Isan can do some more interesting things that allow you to like play around Shang-Chi or potentially spread power to other locations. It also has a little bit more variance and a little bit more things that I will say like potentially ask you to build around it. Valentina has kind of been a staple of RSM. Some people have played Nick Fury. Really, the Isan decks that people tried to make that were doing things that weren't RSM things didn't really pan out, and the people that were playing Isan in RSM, well, I'll say anybody that's been playing RSM at the top levels has been playing it with Isan since this card's release. So all of that is, I would say, sort of an endorsement on Isan. But if you're trying to figure out how to best utilize your collection, I think about RSM still, even though it's much more than this. I think about RSM as the best single card to spend your tokens on in the game, because you spend 6,000 tokens, you have a deck. You've got a bunch of cards. You can play like any other cards in the deck, and it's going to give you 12 more cards. So the cards that you put in it don't really matter, which is another interesting thing to consider. Sure, Isan is an improvement over Blob in a lot of scenarios, to be fair, but it also is not super necessary. One, because you're playing RSM, so you're going to draw it a little bit less often than you would in, say, like, as compared to like drawing Gore in a Hela deck. Like that might be a little bit more necessary in terms of where you spend your in-game resources on. Also, I just don't think it's like that much of an improvement on the other cards that could take its spot. It is still seeing a lot of play. I am an RSM enjoyer, so I am by default an Isan enjoyer. Just don't think it's 100% necessary. So just giving it that little caveat. I will say though, I think off the top of my mind, the rest of the cards are going to go downhill from here. Starbrand, I mean, yeah, some people are playing it. I have seen a little bit of a resurgence of a Sauron deck that wants to get Starbrand in there. And it's like the new Surtur deck now. Surtur kind of dropped off since they really nerfed it hard. But this is kind of a Surtur Scar card now as well. I just don't think it's super powerful. Winds up being like a 3/7, which is still a pretty good rate because it's giving your opponent 3 power at another location where you want to win. So I don't really call it a 3/4, but a 3/7 if you don't remove its ability. I think for the most part, most people are skipping on this one and not play. The people that own it aren't really playing it, to be totally honest. Firehair is a really cool idea of a card. I really wanted it to work. I tried it, I was playing it, and it just didn't seem like it was there. And this is sort of a weird tone of video. I'm basically just telling you why all of the cards from 2 months ago are bad. But I think that that's also kind of interesting, just like looking forward and thinking about how to best utilize your resources. In hindsight, a lot of these cards, most of these cards, almost all of these cards were really not necessary to add to your collection. They seemed cool, they seemed shiny on the first weeks when they were released. But I think it's pretty cool in retrospect to just be like, okay, this like isn't actually that great. And I will say some of these cards you do want to give a little bit of points because they're fun. And I've had fun playing Firehair. I've had fun playing with the last card that I'm about to showcase as well. I do think that Firehair could see a little bit of an uptick with Elixir. I brought that up in my developer update video review with the new cards coming out for the new X-Men series. Firehair shares some mechanical overlap with things that Elixir cares about, but I think for the most part, the juice just ain't worth the squeeze when you are miserying things. Like, there are decks that could play Misery and Misery their opponents, and that's just like fine and dandy, and you've done everything that your deck wants to do. So to put Firehair on top of that, it's like almost win more, and if your deck needs to do that, then your deck can't be that good when it's not doing that. So it's in a little bit of a weird place where I don't think that Firehair is super fantastic. But one card that I did say I had a lot of fun with was Konshu. A 6/5, when discarded, returns in its next phase. And I'll show off those phases in just a moment. On reveal, resurrect a card you discarded to another location with its base power set to 5. And the second phase, the, I don't know, bluer moon here, is a 6/8 that returns the card with 8 power, and this card comes back in the final phase as a 6/12 that brings back the resurrected card with 12 power. Konshu has been a lot of fun, and a card that honestly I was pretty happy that I picked up with. I used Konshu, I think this season. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but this season, at the start of the season, I played a lot of Konshu on the ranked ladder to get up to infinite. I played like a Konshu Hela. It's kind of like an auto deck. I think I put Konshu, Hela, and the first Ghost Rider all in a deck together, and I just said, hit me with it, and that's what I played at least up to like rank 80 or 90 or something this season, just for a little bit, just casually at the start of the season, and had a lot of fun with it. And that is kind of an endorsement in a weird way. I don't think that it was a super powerful strategy, but I do think that it was one of the more fun decks that I've played. I think that some of the decks that I've been showcasing recently are fun and also more powerful, but Konshu is something that I definitely want to keep in mind. The new season is about to start again, and when I get reset on the ranked ladder, might be climbing with Konshu yet again. So how was this video in review? Was this an interesting idea? I don't know. It was something that I just kind of felt called to do. I don't see any other, or at least didn't before I'm uploading this, see any other creators really talking about the fact that we're sort of getting a snap packs rotation, and I just wanted to talk about the cards that was going to be affecting. And in reality, this is not just affecting these cards. This is affecting all of the other cards currently in seasonal packs, because that pool is going to get a lot smaller, and I think a lot better too. Like, currently, if you don't own half of these cards, you might have to roll right now for like a 1 in, I don't know, 1 in 5 to get Goliath, and at the start of the next week, that's going to drop down to like maybe a 1 in 3, 1 in 2 to pick up a powerful card from this current season. And potentially similar things with the Series 4 cards, though I don't know if there's any. Oh yeah, there's all of the cards that just came out in Series 4 last week. All of the, not Hydra Stomper, but Batroc the Leaper. Like, if you want to get Batroc the Leaper, now you don't have to worry about picking up Uncle Ben. So I think that that's really cool. And then there is also, I think, some people that are going to be interested in picking up these cards now that they cost 4,000 a pop, to pick them up in collector snap packs. And then there's going to be other people that are, I guess, what's the third? Oh, that want to pick up other. So yeah, this is a specific thing that maybe I did not talk about yet, but if you don't like these cards, if you don't like any of the cards I've talked about, and there's good cards currently in your collector's snap packs, you might want to open up snap packs before these cards come down and dilute the pool. I think that is actually a very real possibility, because like Starbrand, Firehair, these might just be cards that you want nothing to do with, and you might want an additional odds of hitting like Ajax or even Arishem. I don't know what you don't own. So just wanted to make this video to do a short little reflection on the cards that are about to drop with this first sort of snap pack update. But for today, that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.